Hi guys, this is Prapti Sharma waiting for you all with a very fun-filled and exciting next video of mine, reproduction. Let's start with it. Introduction. Reproduction means to reproduce or to uplifting of a generation or a species. It is a biological process by which an organism reproduces an offspring which is biologically similar to the organism. There are generally two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. Let's look at asexual first. Asexual reproduction refers to the type of reproduction in which only a single organism gives rise to a new individual. There are generally 5 types of asexual reproduction. First, fission. Second, fragmentation and regeneration. Third, budding. Fourth, spore formation. And fifth, as seen in a few plants, which is vegetative propagation. We'll look at them one at a time. First up, fission. The fission is a process of splitting or breaking into parts. So, fission is generally of two types. It can be seen into any multicellular or generally seen in a unicellular organism. So, there are generally two types of fission, binary and multiple. As the name only suggests, binary means splitting into two parts. That means fission separates single organisms into two parts. For example, amoeba, bacteria, eugenia, etc. But in the multiple fission, it doesn't only split into two parts. It can be splitted into more than two parts. For example, plasmodium, sporozoans and algae, etc. The photograph or the diagram of the fission is given on the top. Next, second type is fragmentation and regeneration. Don't get confused. Fragmentation and regeneration are totally a different type of processes. Let's look at them. Regeneration occurs when an organism only grows a lost limb or any other part of the body. No new organism is formed. For example, tail of a lizard. In the process of fragmentation, organisms that are fragmented results in each fragment growing into an individual organism. A new organism emerges from that fragment. For example, flatworms and spores. They are both very different process, fragmentation and regeneration, because regeneration is the process in which no new individual is formed. But in the very same way, fragmentation, a fully new individual is formed from that broken part or that lost limb or any lost part of our body. But in regeneration, the animal lost their body part, but no new organism is formed. Instead, that lost part of the body regenerates. Next, third type of asexual reproduction is budding. In this process, a new organism is developed from a small part of a parent's body called the bud. A newly created bud detaches and develops into a new organism. The newly developed organisms remain attached till it gets matured. The example or the diagram is given on the top. For example, hydra, yeast, etc. In the budding, you must have heard about the tomato eye. The best example is the tomato eye. You have heard about it, even seen that tomato eye. That you have seen a small bud-like structure which is growing on it. If you merge that in the ground, a new plant of potato will grow on it. Next, the fourth type of asexual reproduction is spore formation. In this type, during unfavorable conditions, the organisms develop sac-like structures called sporangium that contains spores. When the conditions are favorable, these sporangiums burst open and spores are released that germinates to give rise to a new organism. And this process is called as spore formation. For example, rhizopus, myco, etc. The full diagram of spore formation is given on the top. You can see that. Next, the fifth type of asexual reproduction, which is seen in a few plants, which is vegetative propagation. This is the method of plants that occur in its leaf, roots and stem. This can occur through fragmentation and regeneration of specific vegetative parts of plants. It can be actually vegetative propagation are of two, natural and artificial. Let's talk about natural first. Natural is root, stem, leaves and bulbs. So by the root, stem, leaves and bulbs, a new organism or a new plant is grown. Next step is the artificial, which includes cutting, grafting, layering and tissue culture. Let's talk about them each at a time. So cutting is in cutting a part of a plant, specifically a stem or a leaf, is cut and planted in the soil. This generally occurs, you must have seen in roses. The example of cutting is rose. Take a rose plant, cut all the stems, all the leaves which are there in that, and plant it in a soil, watered it regularly, and follow all the rules which are required to grow a fully grown plant. From that cut of a plant, from that cutting, a new plant will be grown with a fully, like the another plant from which the plant has been cut, was been cutted actually. Okay. Next is grafting. The cutting from some plant, other plant is attached to a stem or plant rooted in the ground. Yeah, the diagram of this grafting is given on the left top. You can see that. You can clearly see that. Next is layering. The stem of a plant is bent to the ground and covered with soil. You can also see that on the top. Actually, let me tell you that grafting is given on the top, which is the upper part of the actually the root part of the plant is called as the stalk, and the upper part of the plant is called as secion, which is attached, and that process is called as grafting. And next is layering, that I already shown in the top. And next is the tissue culture. The plant cells from the different parts of the plant are cultured in a laboratory or to develop a new plant. This technique is useful or helpful in increasing the number of rare and endangered plant species that are unable to grow under natural conditions. Next, talking about the next type of reproduction, which is the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is a type of reproduction that involves the production of offspring by fusion of male and female gametes. This also takes place in both plants and animals. Generally, two parents are involved in sexual reproduction. Now, reproduction in plants. Reproduction in plants take place through pollination of pollen grains from anther, which is a male part, and to stigma, which is a female part. You can clearly see the structure of a flower in the diagram given. So actually, let me tell you, pollination is a process in which the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma, as it is written also. So pollination is also of two types: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination is a pollination from same plant. Actually, the meaning is that the pollen grains transfer from anther to a stigma of the same plant. But in the cross-pollination, it is totally opposite. In cross-pollination, the pollen grains transfer from anther of one plant to the stigma of another plant. The transfer of pollen grains is from anther of one plant to another plant, in which cross-pollination includes two plants and self-pollination includes only one plant. Next up, we are talking about reproduction in animals. You must know about it. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of males and female gametes. This process is also known as fertilization. Fertilization is also of two types: external or internal. External fertilization is the process in which the male sperm fertilizes and the female egg outside the female body. On the contrary, in internal fertilization, the fusion of male and female gametes take place inside the body of the female. Actually, the internal fertilization and the external fertilization, I hope it's very clear to you, all of you. Next, so this would be very clear that female produces ovum, which is also called as egg, ova, and males produces sperm. Next is we are talking about reproduction in female. The reproductive system of female is clearly given in the diagram, in which uterus, this green part is known as uterus. This tube-like structure is the fallopian tube. That circular thing which is attached is called as ovary. Vagina is at the bottom and verges is in the between. You can clearly see and note it out. Next is reproduction in male. You can see seminal vesicle, colon, prostate, testicle, urethra, penis, vas deferens, epidermis, etc. You can clearly see and note it out. Now there is a very common question which arises. How was sex of a baby is determined? So the answer to that question is, human beings have 23 pairs of chromosomes. You all will be knowing that. One pair of male, X and Y, and one pair of chromosomes in female, which is X and X, are called as sex chromosomes. Actually, the last part. Male produces two types of gametes, half containing X chromosomes and half containing Y chromosomes. When the sperm containing Y chromosomes fuse with egg, the sex of the baby is male, and when X chromosomes containing sperm fertilize the egg, of the sex of baby is female. I hope it is understood by you all. Thank you so very much. Please like, share and subscribe my YouTube channel if you have not done it yet. And please press the bell icon for more videos like these. In fact, more better videos from this. I hope you like this. Please like, share and subscribe.